Hi, thank you. All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. So we're going to mix this up a little bit this time. I'm going to make it interactive. So if you've got questions, let's don't hold them till the end. Just whip it out. Let's make this like a fireside chat. How's that sound? Does that sound good? All right. So we got 75 minutes together. My goodness, as I kind of alluded to this morning, like leadership has just changed, right? Like even if you've been doing it for a long time and you've been successful, like it's just changed. And I actually kind of like that. I like it because it keeps it fresh for all of us. And how's the sound in the back? Can everybody hear me back there? All right, good. So please let me know if there's an issue. Most times I go places I don't really need a microphone. So, but we're going to go ahead just for the recording for the folks on TV. So what we're going to talk about today is why it matters, why thinking about your leadership matters. We're going to specifically talk about Gen Z because they're our new group coming in. We're going to talk about why they join, why they stay, and why they leave. And finally, upping your leadership game. We're going to kind of continue the conversation that we started this morning. Now, if you'll notice on here, so this is the 2020 population. And you'll notice that Gen Z, big group of people. They're actually now in the workforce. They have overtaken baby boomers in the workforce, and millennial generation still the largest generation, and then Gen X in there, 65 million roughly. Boomers, still a bunch of boomers out there. And then what we're seeing is kind of the silent generation and the greatest generation that's kind of winding down sadly a bit. Now, what you'll notice here, this is again, so this year, Gen Z overtook boomers in the workforce. That's why I'm specifically going to focus on them, because if you're not dealing with Gen Z, you're going to be real quick. Now, same thing. This should be on the app. All of these slides. Okay, perfect. All right. And then I've got like a one sheet in there that kind of summarizes everything we're talking about. But again, and we're seeing still millennials are the largest group in there, but Gen X, yeah, exactly. Gen X, still what you're seeing is a lot of Gen X, a lot of boomers still in the senior roles. But I can tell you that the millennials are coming up. Those rascals are coming up behind us. And looking for more opportunities, and which is not a bad thing, right? I mean, that's the whole key is, look, I'm sorry, I want to take vacation. That means I can't be in the office all the time. I can't be in the court all the time if I can never go on vacation because things go to hell. So that's not what we want, is to come in and have this situation where things just grind to a halt if I'm not in the office. So really important that we think about getting those millennials up. Now, I always hear this. Look, it's a new normal out there, and I'm sure you've probably seen these headlines. Why are today's young people so skeptical? They're the whiny generation. Grow up, crybabies. Guess what? This is about Gen X. I know we all thought, oh yeah, we had some other generation in mind, but this was my generation. This was the boomers talking about the arrival of Gen X. No one likes new people coming in. Why? Because they do things differently. They don't listen. They have all these ideas on their own. And so that's human nature. And so if we can all come in and just understand that it will always be a new normal anytime somebody new comes in the office, and by the way, it's regardless of what generation that it is, because of the fact that really you can have this staggeringly well-functioning team, and then and somebody leaves and you get a new person and you're like, oh, who is this person? What are they doing? So we have to come back and adapt and adjust again. And so I always say that a new normal is every day. Anytime you're managing new people, every day is a new normal. Because people come in and they're different people who walk in the door. So use this as an opportunity to think about your leadership. And I always say as well that, why this matters so much is that the courthouse is set by you. The culture of your courthouse is set by its leaders. And so what is it that you're projecting to the folks who work for you, work with you, the judges who work with you? What is the culture? What is the attitude that you are projecting to these other people? Is it, I'm harassed and hurried and you're annoying me? Or is it, hey, let's come in and let's understand that we are here to grant access to justice for people. Like, that's a big friggin' deal. And again, as I said this morning, if I can get people on board with the mission of making bad TV, then you can easily come back, because again, what you do is getting folks access to justice. That is serious business, and getting them trusting in a system which may not be their first inclination. So when we think about this idea of culture, understand that starts with you, starts with every person in this office. And dare I say, obviously you've probably figured out that I'm a pretty straight shooter. You don't get to have bad days. You don't get to have bad days. Because if you have a bad day and bring that into your courthouse, you're bringing the juju in the building is going to be brought down. And that's not necessarily a good thing. That's not necessarily a good thing, because chances are people may be already jacked up about coming in there and nervous and tense. And so if you're projecting that to your folks who work for you and the judges, that's going to come in and it's just going to make a difficult situation even more difficult. So it's something we teach do a lot of retail. Everybody always seems to be angry when they're shopping. I don't know why that is. Well, I'm always angry when I'm shopping. I hate shopping. But it's this idea that people just come in and it is, if we can project calm that everything's going to be fine, then that's going to come in and help folks with whatever it is that they're coming in for into your house, if you will, into your house and your courtroom. So keep that in mind every day. And again, I hate to say it, welcome to leadership. You don't get bad days, because you got to bring your A game in there every time. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Gen Z. How many folks have a lot of Gen Zs? Do you have Gen Z working for you? All right, yeah, pretty much a lot of folks, not surprising. So they are the most diverse generation. Actually, this is the first generation that will be that are more diverse than any other generation. So the majority of folks in Gen Z are diverse. And they are also true digital natives. What's shocking to me about that is, look, my 12-year-old nieces, they don't talk to anybody. They text and they're sitting right next to each other. Like, it's so interesting. So I'm having to teach them how to talk to people, because that's just not what they do. So and I always hear this, that, oh my God, she texted me. Why did she do that? Well, she's not doing it because she is annoyed at you. If you're working with somebody who's a Gen Z, that's how they communicate. That's how they communicate. Now, if you have an issue with it, then you come back and say, hey, so for my staff, I have a list of how we communicate with one another. We have a list that says, if it's urgent, if you write timely in the subject line, I have 4 hours to get back to you. But that's what we have. If it's urgent, then if you need something sooner than 4 hours, then you have to text me or you have to call me. Horrors that you actually have to call somebody. People are like, hello? Is there voices on this? Wow, how interesting. So understand, again, this is how this group communicates. And the interesting thing too, all have done remote work. The other piece that you'll notice with this whole digital natives thing is the fact that they need a lot of stimulus. And by the way, so they say that Harvard, MIT, one of these crazy places, did a study that goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. Now, how exactly you can figure out goldfish 9 seconds, beyond me. But guess what humans are? Less, 8 seconds. So we have a goldfish has a longer attention span than humans do. And it's because of the fact that we're used to doing multiple things. We're looking at multiple screens. I'm sorry, who sat through a Zoom call and actually didn't do something else? No one. Exactly. Because we can't just sit and focus anymore. We can't sit and focus and it's because of all of these different inputs that we have. Now imagine growing up with that. So the one thing that I always say is and by the way, it was very similar to millennials coming in, but on Gen Z, let me tell you, you got to have, there has to be constant learning because of the fact we just can't pay attention anymore. And again, who raised them? Who's got kids younger than 35? There we go. Now, they actually do really want to make the world a better place. 31% would turn down an offer if they felt that the company had poor sustainability and ethics. You got this in spades. So this is fantastic because you are already up a leg on that. But use that as a selling point. Use that as a selling point to get folks coming in. Again, you're giving access to justice. You forget, because if you've been doing it a while, you forget how awesome what you do is. And so we don't connect the dots for people who work for us. Is getting access, is getting justice for folks, is that an important quality for you? It is? Outstanding. We are the company we are the place where you want to work. Use that as part of your selling point because this group, it really matters. Sustainability, ethics, taking care of the world. That's not a checkbox on some form. These folks really believe that. Now this is important to understand. Yeah, please.
So you were saying that use that, but it seems like we use that, but we don't have the dollars to act like it's really important. And so then they sort of question, do we really think it's important?
Yeah, I love that question. So this young lady said that, to use that to your advantage, make sure I paraphrase you correctly, use it to your advantage, but at the same time, we don't have the dollars to make it important.
Right, their salary is less than what they would make at McDonald's.
Yep, absolutely. And when that's the case, you got to come in and you really have to come in and sell what it is that the benefit to the world. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but what you do come back and sell is the fact that 20 years and out, you don't do pensions anymore, no. Right? Nobody does pensions anymore. You do?
Very few.
Oh, well. Where are you from?
Work for you.
Florida. All right. Oh my God. All right, that's wonderful. So, whatever. We do pensions. No. No, I mean, you got to really come back in and sell what it is that you can. And I think also, that's why, to be honest, that I want to be a better manager, a better leader, because if I'm truly paying somebody less than what they can go to McDonald's for, let me tell you what, I got to have a great environment that they're going to want to stay. And so it is all of, so I've done recruiting. I was when I first went out on my own 15 years ago, I was doing more consulting than keynoting. And I was consulting for a company out of Washington State by wherever Microsoft is, Redmond. And I would go after people from like Amazon and other places like that. And I'm telling you what, there was no way we could get anywhere near their salary because they're making buku bucks. But what I came after them and said, do you want any sort of free time? Do you want a life? And you can't have that at Amazon. You don't get that at Microsoft. Now they're paying you for it, but if that's important to you, you'll get it here. So I would also come in and what are the intrinsic perks that you can give them? And that's why I think it's important to have a great work environment. Because let me tell you what, chances are Well, that's terrible to say. I'm going to take this back. I was going to say chances are at McDonald's, they're not going to get a great environment. They may get a quarter more, a dollar more an hour. Maybe. Again, my guess is that things are changing, that everybody's trying to up their leadership game. So that's why it's important to come in the absence of salary, make it a great place to work. And make it, and again, I would hit on the fact of the ethics of because if I can come in and tap into somebody who truly cares about helping with justice, that's a selling point because you don't get that at McDonald's. In fact, they're killing you by the food that they're serving. And I would say that. So hopefully that gives you a couple things in there. Again, this is why we need a great environment. And I have to admit, I'm pretty flexible on trying to give people time off if they've got to do life, because it's just, like there's too many people who are, like even as a single person, like I can't even believe how busy my life is. And I don't even have a plant to take care of. And I can barely keep up with anything. I can't imagine like having a young person who like I have to keep alive because at that point, like your life is so out of control. And so I try to be, and I have to admit, I am way more flexible now, and I'm doing way more doubling up on like having somebody work 20 hours and then having another person work the other 20 hours in the same job. And I'm like, oh no, that seems weird. Now it's like, oh, I can get somebody in for 20 hours a week and they actually show up. Yeah, let's bring them in. Let's get them in. And if they're consistent on that, you know what? I've got somebody part-time. I've got somebody 20 hours a week. So how can I come in and make that work? Make that work for them, make that work for me. And so I'm just much more flexible on this, on working environment and trying to create a great environment. Even things, I know this, but I'll tell you, and people laugh at this, I thank people for doing their job. And I know that sounds like we have to be appreciative of what folks, because now showing up is a luxury. Now showing up is a luxury. When I was at Rolls-Royce, when I first started my career, I remember looking at resumes, and I'd see somebody, and they're like applying for a position at Rolls-Royce, and they've been at their company like 10 years, and I'm like, oh, this is a short timer. Why are they leaving at 10 years? Now you get somebody who's been there like a year or two, and you're like, whoa, I've got a long-term employee here. Wow, let's bring them in. Let me snatch them up before somebody else gets them. So does anybody have anything else to add on the ethics side of things, that you've had something that's been successful? Let me throw it out. Have you had any time that you know that what you said to one of your employees really made a difference? Yeah, please, hold on. Let me grab here we go. Thank you. Just so the folks, and we're doing this only because the folks online can hear us as well. So, and we're recording this. And what's your name and where are you from?
That's a lot.
I know. I am a lot. I hear that a lot.
Tracy Thomas. I'm with the Country Meadows Justice Court.
All right.
But I just reward my clerks every day by telling them how great they are before they leave. I give them Star Wars, which I have to out of my pocket.
Star Wars? Did you say
Star Awards.
Oh, Star Awards.
Yes.
I thought, man, I like this girl. I thought, wow, how do you know I like Star Wars stuff? All right, Star Awards.
Star
All right.
Awards. And then I also...
Is that something they can actually display?
They usually collect they've been doing really well, but they collect like 5 or 10 Star Wars from each clerk when they do well and stuff, and then I give them a $5 gift card.
That's fabulous, smart. We did the same thing at D'Agostino's in New York, which is a restaurant. So, they have their name tags around. They wear their name tags on lanyards like you have them on here. And we gave Apple Awards. And after so many Apple Awards, you could get traded in for money. Again, it wasn't a lot. It was like $5, but it was more the fact that it would spark. Exactly. It was something. And it also showed that you were recognizing them for great behavior.
Correct.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. Thank you. Whoops. Yeah. All right. So look, thank you for sharing. Everybody else is like, man, I'm not going to share. I'm not going to raise my hand now. So where you can, I love that idea of star rewards. And also because at that point also it becomes a little bit of a game, becomes a little bit of a competition. Younger generations like gamification. Who am I kidding? I love gamification. It's about winning. I'm Gen X. It's about winning and it's about me. So that sort of stuff really matters. So if you can pull things like that, and by the way, pull together a group of your employees and let them figure out what would matter to them. What would matter? What if we could do some, and by the way, we've got $10 a month we can spend on this. How can we make that $10? Because at Oxygen, we used to go out and plant trees. Felt really good in the city to go out and like dig your hands in the dirt for volunteer days, things like this. We also took a volunteer, you got 1 day a year to go out on volunteer wherever you wanted to. No paperwork, you didn't have to come in. Now maybe you'll have to do that you'll have to have paperwork. But again, if it's something that you can incorporate that speaks to your employees, why not try it? If it doesn't work, then discontinue it, then stop it. So if we know that they're really concerned about sustainability of the world, how do we try to tap into that? And we planted trees around the facility. So again, try it. If it doesn't work, you don't do it again. So another thing that I think is really important about this group is they are the most entrepreneurial. 62% of them have either started or intend to start their own business. And I'll tell you, the challenge is that means less people are going into the workforce. That's, to me, the most scary thing right now, is that the workforce is low, the numbers are low, and the numbers aren't ramping up. So the amount of people, in fact, when we got back from COVID, everybody's like, hey, where are all the people? Why aren't people coming back to the office? It's because they've started their own gig. And it's because we want to be in the gig workforce. I don't want to work 9 to 5 for anybody. And I can kind of relate to that. Because life gets in the way of everything that's going on. So if we can tap into that idea of how do we get, again, I've never looked at people that are giving me 10 hours a week. Like I used to have 4 people who worked for me pre-COVID, full-time. Now I got like 8. And it's because I'm getting 10 hours here, 20 hours here, 5 hours here. And that's the interesting thing, because people aren't looking for full-time jobs. What they're looking for is something that's going to fit in with their schedule. And so again, it is that question about how do we tap into that and use it to our advantage. The other piece I would say is, they're less prepared to enter the workforce. So my last assistant at Oxygen before we sold, she was there, I don't know, a couple years, maybe a year or so, 2 years, I can't remember. Her parents wanted to come in on the interview. Her father specifically wanted to come in on the interview. And I said, no. But I said, what I would suggest that you do, what you have to do is what I would ask you to do is to train your daughter to ask all the questions that you want. Teach her how to ask those questions. Because I'm not going to work with you. And again, he called and wanted to, he was asking all these interview questions. I'm like, hold on, time out, Mr. Howell. Time out. You're not interviewing. Your daughter is. Well, I have a say in this. I said, I totally understand that. I said, but you don't have a say in whether or not I hire her. And I'm not hiring you, and I don't really care. So your daughter's got to come in. And I said, but teach her. That's what I ask you to do, is teach her. And if she gets the job, day 1, love for you to come in. I'll show you everything that's going on. Because I'm a tough boss. So when she's griping to her father about how mean I am, he's going to come back and say, suck it up, Buttercup. She's going to teach you things. So that's how I handle it. But I'll give you an example of this, not less prepared to enter the workforce. So the day she started was it was the Tuesday, and Thursday we were doing the board meeting. Terrible time to start. And I'm like, Lee, just hang out. Help me. All I need is I just need copies for the board meeting on Thursday. And I said, I promise I'll give you a fantastic tour. I'll spend all the time you want, but not this week. Not until Friday. I got to get past this. No problem. So she goes, gets copies and brings them in. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Our mailroom is putting the copies in a Kinko's box. Interesting. All right. No worries. So then I go and we get in the board meeting and I'm literally like, oh my God, this is the softest paper I've ever, and I'm like, this is so nice. Oh my God, this is gorgeous. I'm like, what is going on? Speaking of no money, and this paper's got to be like $1,000. Like, it's so soft. And so I go, I mean, it's the Charmin. Like, it's the Charmin of, so we go in and we come back out. Meeting goes great. I'm like, this is fantastic. Thank you. She presents me with the bill. She said, I found a Kinko's around the corner on 14th Street. And I said, that is fantastic. Thank you so much for handling this and not bugging me. I really appreciate that and figuring this out. Let me take you on a tour. Let me take you on a tour. So this is a mail room. We have a big mail room here. Let me take you inside. They have industrial copy machines here. And she's like, well, have a look at that. Whose fault is that? Mine. How does somebody not know that you have copy machines in a company? Somebody who's never worked. Somebody who's never worked. And I made assumptions. Now, let me just tell you, we have teased Lee about that, and it's been 20 years. So she will never live this down, but ultimately, whose fault was that? Was me. That was me because I made assumptions about what clearly anyone should know, but yet you don't know somebody's home life. You don't know what experience that they bring to the table. And by the way, she was staggeringly smart. So she didn't know where that we have copy machines. That's all right. I can teach that. What I can't teach, what I needed and what she brought to the table was somebody who could figure out, I can go hunt down a Kinko's. And I'm not going to bug Val because she's getting ready for a board meeting. I appreciate that. Now, I didn't appreciate it when we got the bill because it truly was over $1,000 for like 12 copies. And it was the softest, like at that point, I'm like digging them out of the trash can afterwards. Because I'm like, boy, we're using this for scrap paper. Her dad came in the first day. Her dad came in the next week because I told him he couldn't come in that week. And yeah, her dad came in, staggering control freak. I mean, staggering control freak. Not surprising, right? Somebody who's wanting to come on an interview with his daughter. But again, you know what? It just is what it is. It didn't harm Lee because she's got a staggeringly controlling father. And, so like I said, and she was a fantastic employee. Now, I think this is pretty important as well. So Gen Z has double the depression and anxiety. Understand, Gen Z adults, so 18, 20, 24, have double the depression and anxiety of teens. How incredible is that? And it's because of the fact of all of everything that's been going on. And it's just really, it's staggeringly sad. Because they're reporting little or no purpose or meaning in their lives. See, now I look at that and say, I want to take advantage of that. I want to take advantage of that and give them meaning and purpose in their life. That's why I want to come in and try to connect it to access to justice. Things like messages like that you are changing lives. Yeah, and honestly, that's what you're doing. I mean, you got to agree with that, right? I'm not putting something in your mouth. So if I can come in and teach them, this may be exactly what they need to come back to for them to start living. For them to start living, pulling out of themselves and being into the fact that you are helping others. And you're starting them on their journey of a career. So very interesting. If you have if you have mental health, does your benefits have mental health? All right, good. So you know what? I would come in and forgive me. I'm just checking the time. This does not have no clocks in this room. 2:30. Thank you. So if we come in and again, if that's a benefit, a lot of younger generations are looking for that EAP assistance. So again, use it to your advantage. Now, I think this is some of the most important stuff out there. Let's talk about why they join, why each generation joins, why they leave, and why they stay. So if you look on here, the black is adequate total compensation. So the black is adequate total compensation. This is why they join. You'll see this darker blue right here, career advancement, career development, and advancement potential. Meaningful work in here, meaningful work, workplace flexibility. So again, this is why they join. Reliable and supportive people at work, safe workplace environment, meaning I can actually bring my true self to the office. So this is why they join. Now let's look at why they leave. So inadequate total compensation. So, Gen X, older millennials, which is probably not that surprising, right? Not that surprising right now, because what we're seeing is that millennials now have, it's all great. Look, Gen Z is looking for their dream job. Millennials are looking for a place with career advancement and career development. And which is not surprising, because they are now at a place where they're having kids, you're buying houses, you're getting mortgages, you're getting all that other stuff that shed us down, and that we now have to come in and look at this overall compensation. But again, you'll also notice in there in the top three is that I want, they leave because I have an uncaring and uninspiring leaders. Now, how do we figure out what inspires somebody? How do you figure out what inspires somebody? Ask them. Yep. What do you want to be? Do not say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Don't say that to a young person. You can say that to somebody Gen X. You can't say it to somebody younger than that, because it's condescending. Me, you can say it to me at any point. But again, there's no kids in the office. You don't call people, here are my kids, here are my children. They're not your children. They are adults that are in the workforce. No. All of that, cut that out. Because again, it's condescending. You're saying that your kids are in the office. Well, you don't know anything. Yeah, oh, cute little kids. How nice of you to show up. That sort of stuff is staggeringly condescending. So, all right, now let's look at why they stay. Now this I find to be, look at this right here. Workplace flexibility. Man, oh man. Everybody wants this workplace flexibility. Then they come in career development and advancement opportunities. In here, again, not surprising, money. Not surprising in here, they're looking for adequate money because of the fact that, again, now they're starting to incur debt. Meaningful work here, this is coming into reliable and supportive people at work. This is, if you're having challenges with Gen Z working overtime, anybody experiencing that? The Gen Z just says, no, I'm not going to work overtime. It's because they won't. They want work-life balance. Now, where they will work overtime is if it's for a friend. If it's for a friend and it's somebody who needs help, they will work overtime. But they won't work overtime as a general rule, because they believe in this whole idea of work-life balance. So think about that as you try to structure. That's why it's important that we create a great work environment that people feel like we are part of a team. And look, I'm not going to have you work every day, but I'll tell you what, I really need you to work overtime this week. Really need you. And they won't do it if it's not an environment where it feels like a team, where it feels like it's worthwhile to do. So tapping into that can really be a tremendous help for you. All right, now, so workplace flexibility, career development and advancement potential, meaningful work. And let's look at these rascally millennials. So in here, again, we're seeing still this flexibility, compensation in here, career development and advancement, meaningful work. You are the definition of meaningful work. Now, understand what I also teach folks. So at Oxygen, I used to do these lunch and learns. So that, and how having an opportunity to speak with the upper executives and giving them, that's a chance for them to talk about their career. Anybody can ask any question that they want. One of the questions that I always ask is, what do you hate about your job? What do you absolutely hate about your job? I would ask that question so that folks understood that you never like 100% of the job. There's always going to be some aspect of the job that sucks. That's a learned skill. That is a learned condition, that it's not 100% that's going to be great. So if you can get 75% that's great, you've got a winner. Don't leave because you've got 75% of your job, but you have to teach that. Think about, does anybody do lunch and learns? Yeah. And have you found it to be, I'm sorry. Come on, having access to this Chief Justice that comes in and speaks, that's staggeringly. That's impressive. I love that guy. I love his humor. That's fantastic. You have people that you have staggering access to people. And those judges love to talk. They love to talk. Some of them? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, only some? I was going to say, man, oh man, every judge I've ever seen, they want to share that knowledge. So taking advantage of that and giving folks access to people that you normally wouldn't be able to get access to, it's just a potential perk to where they could come in and learn, where they could come in and learn a new aspect of, and people that you have access to. So try to come in and make learning interesting. So I always find this interesting that Gen Zers, their sense of happiness is based on both this sense of purpose, both at work and in their personal lives. You got to get older. You got to be older to get jaded and realize there is no purpose of life. This is as good as it gets. But we won't tell them that. We'll let them discover that on their own, and we will come back and make sure that they are fulfilling, because you don't know what somebody's home life is like. You don't know that the 8 hours hanging out with you may be the best part of their job, the best part of their day. So that's why I want to create an environment where people enjoy it. 6 out of 10 Gen Zers are happy. They feel that they're doing something interesting every day. I can tell you, I have conversations with my staff. What do you hate about what we're doing? What do you like about what we do? How can we, if you hate what it is that you do, is there a way to automate it? Is there a way? We still need the information. Here's why it's important. Is there somehow that we can do this in a less, less time-consuming, less boring, less something sort of way? And I love the fact of these Gen Zers. Let me tell you, they know technology more than anything. Like it's staggering at they know more than I have forgotten. Because I feel lucky getting on LinkedIn. So at times. And so how can we come back and find this satisfaction and this happiness? How do we tap into that? It's by having a conversation. So any questions up till now? Any questions? Yes, please.
Thanks. So one of the things I find that is difficult is, one of the main job duties is customer service.
Yeah. Which is a bear in every.
Right.
Ugh.
Well, I'm finding that some of the workers we have are happy to answer emails. They're happy to answer the phone, but they don't want to go to the counter and deal with people.
Yeah.
Which is new for me because that's, not how I was trained.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to deal with. And the second thing I wanted to just say is it's difficult to find the right work-life balance when in my state, there's a statute that says we have to be open 8 to 4:30 p.m.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult. I try to be creative, but it's very difficult.
Yeah, I feel you. I hear you. I can tell you with the whole customer service thing, look, nobody likes that anymore. And it's because of the fact that people get crazy. Look, we talk about, several folks came up to me afterwards and talked about the fact that we don't like conflict. That's why we don't give feedback. Well, it's even worse at customer service because people yell all the time. And people are angry. They're probably coming into a court that may be jacked up anyway. because they're nervous, they're upset, there's something going on that's upsetting them. So in most instances like this, that anybody that has any sort of customer service, it is practice. And I'll tell you, I do a ton of practice with folks who deal in customer service. So the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the folks who do the Oscars, is one of my clients. I'm telling you, like, we're bringing happiness here with films and stuff. And people come into that museum and they're crazy. They're screaming at people. They're screaming at these guards. It just makes no sense to me. And you can't react. You can't react. And so we go over scenario over scenario about the fact of what to do if somebody gets crazy. We'll come to you right next. What to do if somebody gets crazy. We do practice drills. And by the way, we don't do them once. We do them about once a month, once every 4 to 6 weeks. And it's because it's really, really hard. And the fact that you don't need, if somebody starts getting crazy, just tell them, I'm so sorry that you feel this way. Give me 1 second and I will get you somebody who can help you. Because you don't have to deal with crazy. You don't, because back to this young lady's comment about the fact of, are they really being paid enough to have to deal with crazy? Nope, but I'm a leader, I'm all right with that. So how we come in and what's your protocol? And again, also it's train. And it is about getting folks more comfortable with that. And again, let me tell you, this whole Gen Z thing scares me to death because my nieces do not talk to one another. It's exactly to your point, but they text back and forth. Text and they Instagram each other. Like it's a bold new world out there. And they can't sit and have a communicate. They can't talk. They can't look people in the eye. Really, really interesting. So I hear you. I would train to death on that, and I would do it consistently. The other piece I would say, again, do the best you can. I'd try to get more part-timers. It is most definitely what I would do in order to, because I think a lot of places have to be open. Again, because of the fact that you're providing such services, it's not like, these are vital services. So I would see what you have to do to get coverage from, 2 to 4, 3 to 4, that's one person that can handle that. That's consistently be there. I'm gonna take a question over here, and then I saw a hand over here.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Belinda Davis. I work for Montgomery County Clerk of Courts in Ohio at the municipal level and common pleas court level. I love you.
Thank you.
I need you in my life every day. Just a message or a text message or something for you would be awesome. But
I can do that. We'll do a group chat.
So something you said in your morning session just a few minutes ago, you never know what's going on in someone's home life.
Yeah.
So several years ago, I started what's called check-in meetings with team members first thing in the morning. I'll go in early, spot check some emails. Once everyone gets settled at their desk, get their coffee or whatever, I walk around and spend time with each team member and say, hey, what's going on? How's everything going in your area? Brilliant. Is there anything I can do to help you? That builds a relationship with that team member and builds trust. So if something's going on with them, if something's off, I will know. Yep. And then after I do my check-in meetings, I'll go back to that team member and have a more in-depth one-on-one conversation with them to see if there's anything I can do.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Well, I think it's brilliant because let me tell you, you got to remember that all of you are at the sun. Like you are the sun. You are, you're the head dogs. And so as you get closer to the sun, it gets scarier. Like it gets scary and, oh, it's Belinda. Don't look, Belinda's walking through. No. I want everybody going, hey, Belinda, hey. That's what I want, because if I can come in and have that relationship, it's harder for people to leave versus the fact that Belinda's up on this, the leaders are up on this pedestal and we can't talk to them. I love that. And that can be very challenging right now because we're so busy with tactical. And right here is a classic example of the difference between tactical and strategic. Because all that is just building rapport, building trust, building a team. And that takes time. So you're committing time away from what you could be doing. But this is time that's very, very well spent because of the fact that you're creating a team. And it's harder to leave that. It's harder to leave that. So figuring out that time, and I can tell you, so Mary, I've talked about Mary a lot, my head of purchasing. And by the way, we spent like $100 million in like 6 months to get this station on. It was ridiculous. And Mary was a very sensitive rascal. And if I did not say good morning to her, it would destroy her day. Well, let me tell you what, I hate saying good morning in the morning. I want to go into my office. I want to sit down with my coffee. I want to look at my email. I want to get my day sorted out. I want to figure out what's going on. Well, am I going to spend my time? What am I going to do? But Mary works for me. If she's not performing at her best, who loses? I do. Mary certainly, but I do as well. So I have to take the time to walk into Mary's office, walk into her cubicle and say, Mary, how was your evening? How was your weekend? Now, the great thing is that we had a conversation about it. Mary's not going to take a soliloquy and tell me 10 minutes on what was happened. She's going to come back and tell me what she gardened with, what she worked on. Tomatoes are ripe, cucumbers are ripe, whatever. And then I can get away. And I can take about 2 sentences, 3 sentences, 4 maybe. Again, I'm terrible at that in the morning. But we got to do it. We got to do it because it's what's best for our employees. It's the leader that Mary needed. It's the leader that Mary needed. And again, she works for me. So if she's destroyed or starts her day out and she can't get going and in a rhythm until 2 hours into it, I've just lost 2 hours worth of time. And that's not acceptable to me. So for me to come in and change things, that is worth it to me, to take this time to create a team, create a family, create an environment. And again, you just don't know what their home life is. Thank you. Who had a hand over here?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
I did. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Joanna. I work for Municipal Court in Missouri.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a millennial and a Gen Z as my children. So
Not children. Yep.
Pray for me.
Yes. They're your real children.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right.
I thought you meant in your office. I'm like, no. All right.
So my Gen Z is 21 and going to the workforce. And as somebody in the back was talking about how they don't have customer service, she spent her sophomore, junior, and half of her senior high school at home in front of her computer.
How can we possibly expect her to be
So this
great?
is why. She's on her phone. She doesn't look people in the eye.
Yes.
I have the ability. She's going to come into my office, and I'm going to make her volunteer.
That's
voluntold,
wonderful.
so
Yes.
she can learn, because she's having a hard time finding a job because she doesn't know how to interview.
Yep.
They don't know these skills. So for us to like saying hello to them, I feel like they would just be like, "What the heck? Like, are you talking to me?" They don't know how to do these things because they spend all of their most social years, because high school is so social. They spend all their social years at home looking at a computer or playing games and not social interacting at all because they thought that they weren't allowed to.
Yeah, and they weren't. Yeah, I mean, it's staggering. That's an excellent point. Let's take these 2 more questions and then I'll move on. How's that? And then we'll check in again. Yeah, I think that what this young lady just talked about right here is really, really important. So they are a product of their environment. Anybody who comes in as a Gen Z, there are issues there. Like there are challenges there because of what we've gone through, because of that 2-3 years of COVID. Like, let me tell you what, this is pretty staggering to have to get over. And again, now, like, I'm sorry, whose parents like threw them out of the house and told them you come back at dusk? Right? Like that was how, you wouldn't do that now. Yeah, I wouldn't do that now. No way. There's crazies out there. I won't even let them go. I won't even let my nieces go out like by themselves in like a normal neighborhood. Like you just look around and there's bad people everywhere. And so like it's a brave new world out there. And so again, you just don't have that independence that older generations have, but it's a bold new world out there. Thank you for your patience. Go ahead.
Hey, it's Rosie. I'm from Beaufort, South Carolina. I work in the magistrate office. My question is, we have some really good Gen Z workers.
Yep.
We have more coming in.
Yep.
Our issue is the Gen X, who are the team leaders, the court supervisors, go at each other from time to time and create like a hostile environment for them. And it's like they can't work it out between themselves. And so now they're causing those other ones to have anxiety, to like, don't know if they're like doing anything right.
Somebody's got to be fired. Time to dump somebody.
Which one do you choose?
Oh, I'd figure out between the two of them, because let me tell you, part of the social contract of working is you can't be at each other's throats. You can't create an environment where like people are picking sides. So, and it sounds like that's what's going on. Let me tell you, I would be all over that like nobody's business, because you have to work together. And because the problem, and I would have that conversation. And look, by the way, like at Oxygen, I hated this other VP of IT, just hated her. And we were exhibiting pretty staggeringly bad behavior towards one another. And we had a sit-down conversation, because what was happening now was our team was not working together. Because that's how it works. They learn how to interact with others. And we sat down and I brought in our general counsel to help sort of mediate between the two of us. And we agreed, look, we never liked one another, but we agreed at least socially how to act in front of people. And look, had either of us not done it, that would have been a problem. And so I think it's time for a sit down between the two of them, because again, it is the social responsibility. Now, I think it's harder if it's a judge, right? That's going to be, if a judge has got bad behavior, that's because they kind of think they own everything. So,
Well, we've actually done that with them, and we've actually had a sit down with our judge. So this is like not the first time.
somebody's got to be fired. Somebody's got to be fired. You're never going to, if you've set that, if there's no consequences to bad behavior, they're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep doing it. If there's no consequences.
Okay, and I had another question. What if one of our Gen Z ones are better than the like team leader? Is there like a way?
You say, you suck. I'm demoting you. All right, I wouldn't say it quite like that.
Yeah.
No, I think that if you have a merit-based, it's about performance. And I have to admit, I'm being kind of flippant, which I apologize.
No,
I apologize. Look, this is very hard. And I just think that it is, I think it is about very, of course you got to have, I'm sure you have HR practices that putting people on PIPs, performance improvement plans. And if things don't improve, somebody's got to go. And what I would, because let me tell you what, you demote this person and they're going to be a raging lunatic. So you're going to have to fire them at some point anyway. Like I said, I know that it's hard, but look, we had this in, I used to hear this all the time at like law firms and stuff, where what happens when the rainmaker of the firm is an ass. And the problem is that they are so bringing down the culture of the organization that people just hate working with them. And the question is like, do you put up with it? Or does at some point, if that's not the culture that you want, at some point you've got to get rid of them, even though they're the rainmaker of the organization. And that's really pretty staggeringly rampant in law firms because of who's, the billable hours and all this sort of stuff. And, if there's no consequences, then you just got to hold on. But until, I work with a CFO who got fired because of his attitude. And it's like, if you do not change your attitude, if things do not change, you're going to be fired. And if there's no consequences to bad behavior, then they will never change. I don't know that there's anything you can do to convince them to change until there are real consequences. I'm dealing with one of my coachees, and she's a VP at a pharmaceutical company. Her 2 top employees have terrible attitudes, and she's going to have to. And this is going to be a mess. But she's going to. Eventually, they've got to go. One of them's got to go, and hopefully that'll convince the other person. And they handle the most difficult tasks in her department. But because the challenge is that it also comes in that by not respecting you or not respecting the position, it feeds out into others as well. Why give my all if Susie's allowed to be a jerk and can talk to you like that? Why come back, and why do I have to show up? And so it drags everybody else down. So I would most definitely, like I said, somebody's got to be fired. And I realize that can be very difficult. So start the process today. If you're a state employee, that can be staggeringly difficult, but today's the day to start that. And hopefully you can, in 4 months or 6 months or a year, get that bad attitude out of there. But start that process now. Yes, please. And then I'm going to go on for a little bit. Oh, did you have a question back there? All right, let's go over here, and then I'll come right back over here. I'm sorry, because you did have your hand. You're like, I don't even remember, Val. You've been talking so long. What was I going to say?
Good afternoon. I'm Cherie. I'm with the Solicitor's Office of Gwinnett County in Atlanta, Georgia. And I have a team of Zens G.
Yep.
That is really private, and they don't like to talk at all.
Yeah.
So how do you get them to be more motivated? How do you get them to get more involved with the activities that are going on in our office?
You know what I had a tendency to do was I had them plan it. I would have them plan it because my definition of fun was different from their definition of fun. And so I typically, to get them involved, I typically had others plan stuff because my idea of activities was not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. So that's what I would certainly suggest to try, and just understand that they have, again, you're teaching, like this young lady just talked about right here, like you're having to teach them how to have social interaction. Because it's not something that Gen Z has done a ton of. It just is what it is. Yes, please. You should be hot.
Okay. I'm Tony from the 10th Judicial Circuit in Florida, work in the Interpreters Department. And there's 3 of us that are in the, what is it? Anyway, I have 3. We're all over the place. I have 2 millennials, one young, one older.
Okay.
And very different people, but I found that a way to build the team and for them to at least talk to each other, we have Friday lunch.
Love it.
We either go out to lunch together. We go and do an extra half hour so that it's, we don't have to rush through lunch, or we do like a planned lunch in the office, and then everybody participates and they talk to each other. And I know that at one time I did tell them, you may not like each other, but you need to work together because that we work in teams in the courtrooms.
Yep.
So, people don't like each other and they tell me, I don't want to work with so-and-so. It's like, there's no choice.
So, right, you're absolutely right. There's no choice. And then what you have to do is teach somebody how to deal with somebody. Tell me about what it is that you don't like. What is it that you don't like working with them on? All right, so let's talk about strategies on how to get over that. Because unfortunately, I don't care where you go, guaranteed there's going to be somebody you don't like to work with. So this may seem like, even though this may be your first job and maybe the first time that you're dealing with somebody that you don't like, guaranteed there's lots more out there. And so so talk to me about so I'm coaching them on how to deal. And then I always throw in, there's somebody here that I don't like. And then they're like, well, who is that? And I talk about my experience about dealing with somebody who I don't like. And I said, do you know who that is? And they'll say, no. And I said, exactly. You don't know who that is because I don't want you to know who that is. And then I'll typically say something like, in fact, there's a lot of people I don't like here. No. And so, again, that's a learned skill of how to deal with somebody who's got a very different personality. And you have to coach them on how to do that. Because, again, think about it from a parent's standpoint. I'll tell you, I've never seen parents that allow, I was not allowed, so I signed up for softball, hated it. I had to get through the season. I couldn't quit midstream. That's not how this goes now. Oh, you don't like it? No worries. We'll let you drop out mid-season and I'll get you into soccer, or I'll get you into what's next. What that teaches us is that you may not like something, quit and go try something else. So if I have challenges with employees, don't try to work it out. Just quit and go find another job. Teach that skill of how to work with people because, again, if they are young and are new in the workforce, they may not understand that you will never get along with everybody all the time. I've not seen that in my 30 years of working, or however long it's 20 years of working. Exactly, I've never seen that. And so, again, that is a learned skill of how to keep putting up with something, even though, and what to do about it, and how to alleviate it. Things like, and again, add on top of this the fact that people don't want to talk to each other, and they come to me, so I'm typically head of operations in any company, so HR comes to me. Oh, you know what? I don't like Bob. Bob gets on the phone and he's loud. Have you told Bob that? Well, no, I'd like you to go tell Bob. No, you got to tell Bob. All right, practice with me on how you can come in and tell Bob. But again, look, I'm sorry, that's not Gen Z, that's not millennials, that is everybody. Because nobody wants to give challenging feedback. So that's everybody. All right, let's walk through some additional slides. So what I have in here, and again, you have this in your packet. So I've put in defining traits, workplace values and preferences, style and ethics, the ideal workplace environment, and then attracting and retaining talent. And what you'll notice is that this kind of right here is this line. So you're going to see Gen X and up. There's a lot of similarities there. The biggest difference is the fact that baby boomers are staggering. They love working in groups, teams, that kind of stuff. Very, very well suited for that. Gen X doesn't want that. Gen X wants to go off on their own and work on something, and then I'll come back and share it. So Gen X can be very independent. I would say that that's probably the big, because they're much more self-reliant, much more. That's why a lot of Gen X, you don't need to come back and dictate, help them work through their career because they got this figured out. And so that's the latchkey kids. I was the first of those groups that came in and just much more independent. Once we get over here, I would say, and interestingly, here is where also you have the same similarities, and I see it from the fact of Gen X is doing a lot of these Gen Zs. They are independent and entrepreneurial. Yes, they want a lot of interaction with folks, particularly in the office, but when it comes to actually working on solving a problem, they want to do that on their own, and then they'll come back to the rest of the group. To where millennials are way more like baby boomers, who in a lot of instances were their parents. And so it's just interesting. And look, it's also interesting now where you have folks who are having children much later in life. And so you're getting baby boomers having children that are growing up as Gen Zs. So where that comes in and how that drives that is just very, very interesting. So a lot of information on here, and I've got on here do's and don'ts. So particularly of Gen Z, and what I would say is this also applies to millennials. And the key is how do you truly learn how to manage somebody and how to motivate and engage them? Ask them. Am I doing too much? Are you getting enough information or are you not getting enough? What do you need more from me? What do you need less from me? What do you want me to start, stop, or continue? I ask every one of my employees that. I'd say quarterly. It's really more like 6 months. Because if I'm going to try to force the fact of feedback, and I don't care if they come back and tell me I'm the worst boss they ever had. You know, what is the one thing I say to them? Thank you for sharing that. I bet you that was very difficult for you to share that. I appreciate your sharing. I'm going to go back and think on that. And then I go back and I throw the chair or do whatever and get angry. But the moment I come in and start defending, I know, gosh, you're right. I was so short with you last week, but the judge was on my back. I had this due, I had that due. The moment I come in and start justifying, they're shutting down because I'm not listening to them. What they heard is that I was short, I didn't say hello, I seemed like I was angry, and we can't do that because we can't have bad days. That's just a reality because they're going to go back and talk about that, and it's going to ruin their day. You may have a moment that's bad, it may ruin their entire day. So don't micromanage. You got to figure out if you're in that micromanaging category, and that's with anybody. Because the worst part about micromanaging is double work. Because I'm doing it and they're doing it. And so we have to let go. And I always say that, look, honestly, and look, if there's a process they have to follow, and it has to be A to B to C to D, then that's all right. But otherwise, you're not making penicillin. You're not making medicine that if you mess it up, well, it's all right, there's serious consequences. Let somebody else learn how to do it and do it their way. Give positive. We talked about this morning. Embrace new technology. Interestingly, though, don't try to replace humans with technology, which is so interesting to me because they want the interaction, but yet they're terrible at it. So that's what's so interesting there. And I'll tell you, this whole work-life balance, look, we saw those, why they stay, why they join, why they leave. It's work-life balance, and I get it, as the lady said who talked about the fact that we're 8:30 to 4:30. There's a statute. They're like the post office. They got no flexibility in that. Where you can get flexibility, do what you can. DEIA, boy, oh boy, does that seem to be getting a bad rap nowadays, which is so strange to me. Like it's like it was so hot. And then it seems to turn this corner that now it's this bad thing. And it's so interesting to me because all we're asking for is just to get everybody to belong, give people a place to be, that they feel that they have access, the same level of access. It's just so interesting to me. But I can tell you that Gen Z, this stuff really matters. So, you know what? Don't let, I just saw SHRM, like Society for HR Management, got rid of the A. And the accessibility, it's like, okay, like the head of HR. It's just so strange at where things are going with this. So what role they bring in, understand their role in the value that they bring. Because again, this is a group of people. This is a group of working adults that in a lot of instances, everything's been given to them. And that is not a good position to be in. And it's because our parents are more affluent. A lot more people have more money. And you know what? I don't want my kids working. I want them in every school activity and learning skills and doing other things. The challenge is that they don't learn to work. They don't learn that it's hard work out there, that there's a lot of things. I remember baling hay at 13 for 5 cents a bale. It makes my shoulders scream just thinking about that now. So personal development opportunities. If somebody wants to go be So I can't even tell you how many people said to me they want to be CEO. Millennials coming in, yeah, oh yeah, I want to be CEO. Absolutely. You're not going to be CEO at Oxygen Media because there's about 50 people in front of you. I'm one of them, and I'm watching you. But you hang with me, and I will teach you how to be a CEO when you start your own company or you go to another company. I don't laugh at somebody wanting to be a CEO. That's exactly who I want to come work for me because they are motivated. That's why I come in and give Lee 2 line items from a budget, because you're going to need the skill to be able to look at the office. To be able to look at money. We got to be great at the basics. We have to be great at goal setting, delegating, empowering, motivating, holding others accountable, providing feedback and coaching. These are basics of leadership. We got to be fabulous at them. Now, we saw this morning, so I won't walk through this again. Whoops, sorry. I won't walk through this again. We saw this. If you are a micromanager, got to let go of that. Got to let go of that so that you can have time to do what it is that you're supposed to be doing. I teach on communication norms and preferences. We have conversations about how does each person want to be communicated with. Is your first preference text? Is it calling? What is that? And we have that all written up. That's not some esoteric secret thing. We have that all written up. I actually teach how to have dialogues with people. I give people scenarios where you have to argue each side of the fence. We do that because I'm teaching people how to talk. Teaching people how to talk, that is not something that people know anymore. I talk about how to show respect for each person. What are 2 things? What are 2 things that drive you the craziest? Everybody gets a chance to tell the 2 things that drive them the craziest. So don't do those. That's how we teach respect. Mentor effectively. Mentoring is not, let me tell you all that I know. Mentoring effectively is, tell me what you know about this and I'll fill in the gaps. If you know nothing, that's fine. I can talk and tell you everything. But I don't want to assume that you know nothing. You want to make sure that promotional opportunities are very well defined. That way people see that it's fair. Don't ever allow never, always, and they. Well, they never show up on time. Who's they? Who's they and who's never? Share everybody's goals. I do that because there's a lot of challenges with folks going, well, why does Val get to work from home? Because Val's goals don't require her to be in the office. That's why I share goals and everybody knows those so that they know that it's not dependent on where they do them from. Again, that's a learned skill. New technology, reverse mentoring. Hey, no kids, no parents. You kill that from your vocabulary. That is nothing but condescension. I get agreement. Folks, let's assume positive intent. Let's assume positive intent from our folks and create this team. All right, so we went through a bunch of these, and I know I've only got 5 minutes left. Work on communication. Be involved. I love Bettina's comment, again, about going around and talking with folks. We hit a bunch of these this morning. Communicating to build trust. Everything comes down to communications. So if we have to come in, actively listen, give feedback, connect everybody to the bottom line, to the bigger picture of things, approach challenges in a positive manner. If this is like, I just took a call and literally in the half an hour, I wanted to go throw myself in front of a car because this woman was so depressed about everything. And I'm like, if you're doing this in the office, you are killing people's enthusiasm. All right, being respected. Let me tell you one other thing and then I'll wrap this up. I know I'm getting the hook here. We disrespect people in small ways. Anybody done brainstorming? Any done brainstorming sessions? Yep, am I the only person? All right, let's see some hands, brainstorming. All right, excellent. Think about it. If I come back and say, all right, everybody whip out their ideas. All right, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I put this on the board, I put this on the, no, we can't do, we tried that before, we can't do that. I've just judged somebody's, it's not even worthy of putting up on a whiteboard. I have just disrespected them. Do you think they're gonna whip out their great ideas if I've come back and shut them down from not even putting something on a whiteboard? We disrespect people all the time. All right, 2 more. Come on. All right. So understand that everything starts with you. Everything starts with you as the leader. There we go. Praise. We've talked about a lot of these. The last piece I'll say, I talked before about the fact of, keep fighting the good fight. The other piece that I would say is take care of you. I know that what you do is difficult. No one's going to take care of you but you. So please take care of you. It's like that flight, even though I don't want everybody to have like an anxiety attack here. Put on your own mask before helping others. Folks, thank you so much for joining me today for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.